And now we're recording.
Wow. Round two. Hey guys, we just talked to you, but no one was listening. Oops.
Luckily we didn't record for
Shocking.
that long.
hmm
So just yes,
So we didn't press
100%.
record. All right,
But
we're gonna get started again. Welcome,
yes,
friends.
welcome back. Lots is happening, but we are gonna do just quick rapid fire, read you some headlines so you can know what's going on, but not be like super bogged down by all of it. Because we have more of like a comprehensive background kind of episode today, talking about abortion and the anti-abortion kind of like movement, what to look for, their tactics, what's really been going on, and it'll kind of tie into a lot of like the news stories that we've been seeing and will continue to see. It's broken up into a nice little two-parter, so it's 20 minutes, quick, digestible, and then we're moving on with our day and we're finding some frickin' joy, okay?
hmm Yeah, that's right, ladies.
That's right. All right, let's
All right,
waste no time. Let's dive on in,
let's go,
shall we?
bros. Okay.
All right. The Trump administration scrubbed information about HIPAA protections for reproductive rights from the Department of Health and Human Services website. They also erased guidance on pharmacies' obligation not to discriminate against patients seeking reproductive health care, in addition to deleting CDC documents related to sexual and reproductive health, intimate partner violence, LGBTQ plus issues, and more. Ugh. That's all I have to say. But luckily, our queen, Jessica
hmm
Valenti, kind of got ahead of this and was able to like bulk download so much of these documents and research and bought the domain cdcguidelines.com, which we'll link to. So luckily, we can still have access to a lot of these resources.
She's a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Trump's new transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, sent out a memo to staff about resending woke DEI policies. Hmm. In it, he directs them to prioritize and give preferential funding to communities with marriage and birth rates higher than the national average.
Yeah, they're making their priorities very clear. And
Mm-hmm.
it is not our safety.
Nope.
It is simply just an influx of babies.
Yep.
White babies, really. Yeah.
True. True.
We can say that quiet part out loud, you know? All right. Louisiana brought the first post-Dobbs criminal charges against an abortion provider. Dr. Maggie Carpenter was indicted on criminal abortion charges after shipping abortion medication to a Louisiana teen. The Louisiana district attorney has also charged and arrested the teen's mother, who they claimed coerced her into having an abortion. So this is that same doctor that we just saw who was brought not in on criminal charges, but I think just civil charges, more like a fine in Texas. So the same doctor who is out there freaking doing the Lord's work, helping literal children. Like a teenager is a child. Anyways, good news though. New York Governor Kathleen Hochul signed a bill that would protect providers who ship abortion medication to anti-choice states by removing their names from prescription labels. She also stated that she would never turn Dr. Carpenter over to Louisiana. Love.
Conservative legal groups are working to overturn Hill versus Colorado, the Supreme Court decision that established abortion clinic buffer zones, further enabling anti abortion extremists to make it harder for patients to access care.
Yeah, and those buffer zones are like the literal buffer zones that protesters can't be like blocking the door. Like they have to give patients and doctors enough space to get into the clinic.
Physically get there. Yep.
Yeah, kind of important. All right, last one. Students for Life, aka Students for No Choice, launched a multi-state legislation blitz using false claims that abortion medication and fetal remains are poisoning the groundwater, using environmental concerns as their new angle since they literally have nothing else. The group is working with Republicans in Wyoming, Arizona,
They don't matter
Maine.
anyways. Screw it.
Yeah, bye. Wyoming, Arizona, Maine, Idaho, and West Virginia on supposed clean water for all bills. These bills would mandate that abortion patients bag up their blood as medical waste and bring it back to their doctor for proper disposal. Like, are any of these students against choice women who have like heavy periods ever? Because like
Literally.
TMI, but like sometimes the clots be clotting.
Decline.
And those go right
You
down
are
that shower drain.
so stupid. Like, are you actually in school? Because like your brain's not there, babe.
No.
What?
No. Well, all of these people lack critical thinking skills, and we know that to be true for
I
sure.
think we should bag up all of our period blood and just send it to them. They can deal with it.
You know what?
Just a thought.
A better idea has never been spoken. Let's do it.
Send me your address, babes.
We'll start a drive, okay? We'll start a blood drive.
Yeah, just for you guys. You can have all of our medical waste blood from our periods.
Perfect.
Good luck.
Well, that is what you need to know. So let's all take a big fat deep breath because holy crap.
Yeah.
So enjoy, and not really enjoy because like this shit is so infuriating, but thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in and wanting to be in the know as hard as it is. It's so important. So let's stay motivated, but protect our peace. So definitely go do something fun after you're done listening to this episode. Phone a friend. Go do a fun workout class. Work it out, you know?
Make
All
cookies.
right.
That feels better for me right now.
Oh, yes. Oh my God. That's actually totally what's going to be happening tonight. Better believe it, baby. All right. Love you dearly.
See you later.
Bye.
Boom, chicka boom, boom.
Welcome back.
We're here.
Welcome back.
We're queer.
Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
To the Literally Nothing Matters podcast, where literally nothing matters except for like our reproductive freedom.
I mean, it's kind of important.
Yeah, just a little bit. Hello, Poe. He is feeling passionate about it also.
Yep.
Okay, so on today's episode, we're going to be telling you basically everything that you need to know about what's going on with reproductive freedom and abortion in our country. I wrote in like under 20 minutes, but then like in the outline, I let things get out of hand. So I would say maybe in under 40 minutes, but if it goes that long, it'll be a two-parter.
Okay.
So really, we're not sure.
Okay.
And we're just going to roll with it.
Yes, as we do.
All right.
All right.
Let's dive right in.
Mandy's been busy, friends.
I have become, listen, they should be scared of me because I have no children. I have nothing but time.
Oh my
I am
God.
becoming a book
She's
girly,
deadly.
and I'm going to arm myself with knowledge.
But this is great because now we can just get the cliff notes of
exactly.
your knowledge.
Yeah, and that's also sort of the point is that like I recognize that like as a person whose job is mostly just busy in like the summer months, and as someone who does not have children right now, like I have more free time than other people, and like I will take that time to read the books because like bitch, you are raising 2 children and you have to read school books. Like you don't have time.
To read school books?
School
Textbooks?
Yeah, textbooks are, that's what those are called.
School books?
Those school books. But like, I totally understand. Like, people don't have time to be reading all this stuff. So like, if I can share the cliff notes, and then if you feel so, you know, emboldened to like listen to the audiobook or pick it up and like read it on your own time, go off. But like, this can be our place for some knowledge.
I love it.
All right, let's do it.
Wow.
Okay. So obviously trigger warning up top about like abortion, miscarriage, all that good stuff. If you need to take your time listening, take your time, take a break. I get it. This stuff is heavy. We got to protect our peace. So, well, the book at hand that we're talking about is Abortion, Our Bodies, Their Lies, and the Truths We Used to Win by Jessica Valenti. If you don't follow her on like all the social platforms, I definitely suggest it. She's such a wealth of knowledge, and she talks about the fight for abortion access almost every single day. So someone to get that quick bit of information, she's a good one. All right. So starting with the fact that abortion is inherently good, safe, and accepted. So, obviously, despite anti-abortion rhetoric, they are extremely common and extremely safe. 1 in 4 American women will have an abortion in her lifetime. 99% of women who have had abortions don't regret it, and the overwhelming feeling that most describe after ending a pregnancy is relief. And that's not to say that women are these like callous creatures. It just shows the nature of it isn't this big, shameful, disgusting, gory murder that rhetoric tells you that it is. It's something that women take a lot of time and care into making the decision that is best for them, and it's safe. And also, more likely than not, you know someone that has had an abortion, whether or not they're talking about it. 1 in 4 women is pretty significant. Those denied abortions are more likely to stay with abusive partners, more likely to have serious complications in pregnancy, more likely to suffer from anxiety and poor physical health, and more likely to end up in poverty. A study found that forcing a woman into pregnancy quadruples the odds that she and her child will live below the federal poverty line.
Shocking.
Yeah. So that might be like sort of the whole point, but whatever. 2022 report showed that states with abortion restrictions have maternal death rates that are 62% higher than states with abortion access, and that the abortion mortality rate was increasing twice as fast in states with abortion restrictions, aka the stakes are high. Mm-hmm. We have to care about this because literally women's lives are at stake in more ways than one. Just like they want you to think that it's dangerous, they also want you to think that it's unpopular amongst your fellow Americans. And like, don't let the fact that Donald Trump was reelected fool you into thinking that that means that the country overwhelmingly supports like anti-abortion causes, because that's really actually not the case. Mm-hmm. On the state level, abortion actually won on the ballot every single time, besides Florida, Nebraska, and South Dakota. But
bye.
Do we want to live in those places anyways? Surely not. Actually, just last year, a polling company called Axios Ipsos, they're like a big polling company, I don't know, asked voters whether abortion should be regulated by the law, and 81% of Americans agreed that the government shouldn't be involved in abortion, including 65% of Republicans, which I think is a huge part of what you and I were talking about how it's not right versus left, and it's okay to have anger towards people that voted against your rights and to have these big complex feelings about all of that. But it's actually the majority that believes in this right to choose. And it's important that we know that we deserve freedom in that way, and that our neighbors know that we deserve freedom in that way. And the more that we recognize that it's actually the majority, I think the easier it is to talk about without feeling like, oh my God, is everyone like, am I going to get all this hate? Am I going to be judged?
Yes.
When most people don't want the government in our doctor's visits. So I'm going to have you turn to page 26.
This is me. I get to
our
lecture.
Narrator, Caitlin, our mental health correspondent.
Page 26.
So I think that's that first little guy. So go ahead, read that blue highlight.
Okay, here we go. What better way to waste our time and resources? The truth is that Republicans should be trying to convince us that their position is the better one. It's their policies, after all, that are causing so much suffering. It's their laws that Americans keep voting against. The real question is, if Republicans believe that America is a pro-life country, then why are they working so hard to keep voters from having a choice? Instead of defending their abortion bans or trying to change hearts and minds, conservative lawmakers in the anti-abortion movement have focused their efforts on preventing voters from having a say at all. Given how popular abortion rights are, they figure it's better not to risk it.
So now go ahead, turn to page 29. And
to recap,
yeah.
Republicans spent millions of taxpayer dollars to try to acquire 60% of the vote instead of 50%, sued to force petitioners to collect twice as many signatures, colluded with anti-abortion organizations to draft ballot summary language to trick voters, and launched a multi-million-dollar disinformation campaign, all in order to keep voters from having a say on abortion rights. Oh, and a few days before the vote on issue 1, Republican leaders purged 26,000 voters from the rolls.
Yeah. So that was talking about getting abortion on the ballots in the states. So it's also important, obviously, that like this is a threat to everyone's democracy. So not, again, right versus left or just women's democracy. It's our freedom to have a voice and our freedom to like make choices about what our states look like and what our country looks like and how our government is working for us, because that is literally why they're there, lest we not forget. So we should all care about this and want to fight for it, obviously. So like you kind of just stated in that reading, the language that we use and that they use obviously matters a lot, makes a big difference. So they intentionally use manipulative language when speaking about abortions in order to trick voters, such as like an undefined late term, which a lot of people would vote against because it sounds gruesome and whatever. When really that late term that they're referring to is around like 12 weeks. Yeah. Or consensus or limits, instead of saying something like a ban, because now that has such a negative connotation. Conservatives also launched a pressure campaign on mainstream media outlets to stop using the word ban, claiming that mainstream media using the word ban was a sign of pro-choice bias, which is really unfair when they start dictating how journalists can report on these very real things that are happening. And obviously, like when the media starts adopting the language of anti-abortion movements, it's like doing the work of spreading misinformation for them. Yeah, it's also important to note that, like, as we've seen happen with some of the deaths or near deaths in anti-abortion states, they use really fake and loose terms, loose language in the legislation. So it's easier to like argue to judges and courts down the line, you know? So moving along. They are banning or working on banning birth control, which is something that I know we've heard about in like Project 2025 and is something that's like obviously super scary, but it's one of those things that I definitely have always felt is always just going to be there. Like it's just a given. I think we kind of take some of those freedoms for granted. So obviously, like during like election times, women were told crazy. Like we're told that we're being crazy if we think that like that's something that they're going to go after. Because again, we're like waiting for that big sweeping legislature that would like say in black and white that like birth control is not allowed or abortion pills are not allowed, when like they're already doing it just like covertly.
Yeah. That's the scariest part, is just the language that's being used. And I think that we can see this in so many different realms, even if it's within your job and seeing your contract, and the verbiage there is like so gray. And just like we're talking about, it's like no one's going to come out and say, yeah, you're not allowed this or that. We know it's not simple.
I just had a thought of that. We were not actually using the right mics, but we were, so it's all good.
Thank gosh.
Okay.
Thank gosh.
But yeah, I totally agree. It's like that's why we need to like be paying such close attention in all realms, you know. But Republicans are eradicating access to contraception by passing laws that allow insurers to refuse to dispense emergency contraceptives and replacing reproductive health clinics with crisis pregnancy centers, like we talked about with the Resolution 7, that refuse to discuss contraceptives, provide contraceptives. The GOP is also claiming that IUDs, the morning after pill, and sometimes even the birth control pill are not birth control at all, but a new fake term that they have created called abortifacients, basically saying
What is it? Aborta?
abortifacients. So it's like
Okay.
that it causes an abortion, even though none of those things,
Oh my God.
yeah, none of them end pregnancies. They simply prevent them.
Yep.
So while it seems really silly to think that like they could fool the American people into believing that, it's already happening.
Mhm.
So if you would kindly turn to page 63.
Okay. All right, here we are. Are we at the top?
Yeah, just that top little guy.
A 2023 poll found that 73% of Americans believe that emergency contraception can end a pregnancy. And so the anti abortion movement is stoking confusion whenever possible, believing that if it can make Americans think emergency contraception is the same thing as abortion medication, it will be that much easier to ban both.
Tough. Real tough. Yikes! All right. Okay. So obviously when talking about abortion and reproductive rights, a big thing that people talk about are making sure that there are exceptions for victims of rape and incest, life of the mother, life of the child, all of that. And that's not the wording that they use, but you know what I mean? Like if it's a viable pregnancy or not.
Yep.
But basically a lot of these exceptions are kind of just used as a PR tactic to make these bans seem less extreme, and like distract from the inhumanity of this legislation as a whole. So for instance, with the rape and incest exceptions, in South Carolina, before South Carolina can perform an abortion on a rape victim, assuming that the person can even find a doctor in South Carolina that would be willing to perform one at all, or has the training to perform one at all, because that is a big issue these days, is that care just doesn't exist. They're not teaching it in school. It's scary. They have to inform the patient that their name, information, and details of their allegation will then be reported to the local sheriff. In Tennessee, when Republicans were briefly considering a rape and incest exception, which I don't believe that they have anymore, any woman who the state believed made a false report would be guilty of a felony and would have to serve a minimum of 3 years in prison. Also important to know, a lot of women that have abortions already have children at home. So who's watching them?
Yeah.
Iowa State Medical Board guidelines require doctors who are considering giving a victim an abortion, would have to determine whether the TAC is prosecutable. So if it's not able to be prosecuted in court, they cannot give the abortion. We know, and that's such an easy thing to do in the United States, is to prosecute successfully.
Yep.
Case of rape. That happens all the time successfully. Just kidding. It doesn't. Okay. Couple more. Most recently, Indiana Senator Michael Young, which we talked about a little bit on social media recently, proposed a bill to require a patient seeking an abortion in the case of rape or incest to sign an affidavit that would be punishable by up to 2 years in jail if proven untrue. It also doesn't state who would be determining that truth. Would it be police and prosecutors? Yeah, who notoriously don't believe women in cases of rape and incest? Like, also just like how traumatizing for
why do it?
Yeah, a young girl. Like a lot of these cases are children.
Yep.
Or even a grown woman to have to go through something like that, and then to also have to petition a room of lawyers and judges basically begging to be given the care that she needs, and not carry their attacker's fetus. So I'm going to have you read a quote on page 80.
Okay. Alrighty. Are we in blue?
Yeah, wait, let me double check. Yeah, honestly, just read all that. Read it all.
One question I'm often asked about this particular exception is why? Why would anyone, even someone anti-abortion, want to force a person to carry a non-viable pregnancy to term? If it's not as if there's going to be a healthy live baby at the end of the pregnancy, I wish I had an answer. The truth is that this has never been about the health of women, babies, or families. It's about imposing extremist Christian nationalism and controlling and punishing women. Say it again for the people in the back.
Yep.
Poor God, we just place so much blame on this fantasy creature.
I know, right? He's like, hey,
Yeah,
not
first of
me,
all,
not
God's a
me.
woman, so
Yeah.
let's start there. Republicans know what they're doing. They know their laws will hurt and kill women, and for all the rhetoric about saving babies, they also know that more infants will die as a result of this work. But they don't care. In fact, some anti-abortion groups see that as a sign that their laws are working. After Texas banned abortion, the state's infant mortality rate went up by over 11%.
Yeah.
According to Michael New from the Charlotte Lozier Institute, that rise in infant deaths meant that Texas's laws was preventing unborn children from being aborted due to their medical condition.
Yeah, not great. Okay, turn to page 83.
Okay.
I know there was one that was so much. Okay, yeah, just this little blue.
When Idaho Republicans wrote language to clarify the state's abortion ban, they declined to include an exception for life-threatening conditions. Why? Republican State Representative Julian Young said, "The list was endless when we began considering the decisions that would fall under that language." That's right. When faced with the fact that there are endless numbers of things that can go wrong during pregnancy and put someone's life at risk, conservative lawmakers simply opted to leave out any allowance for them at all.
Yeah. Like, chills. It's chilling. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
All right. So, like we were talking about, the punishment is sort of the point. So although Republican lawmakers and anti-abortion organizations will deny wanting to punish women for abortion, although they actually seem to be way more open about it these days. South Carolina bill that I totally just skipped it. Yeah. A South Carolina bill that would make abortion punishable by the death penalty had 24 co-sponsors, which we talked about in the first episode. And anti-abortion lawmakers and activists are increasingly coming out in support of the notion of equal protection, which basically calls for fetuses to be treated the same as people in the cases of homicide, wrongful death, child endangerment, and more, which means charging abortion patients as murderers, basically using lies to confuse people into thinking that normal abortions are much more gruesome and gory to make these women seem like monsters if they're not properly traumatized by their miscarriage or abortion, which is super, super dope. Which will also leave a lot of children without a mother.
Yeah.
All of the cases of domestic violence that could be turned around on women. I mean, if she was in a domestic violence situation and had a miscarriage from that, could it then be turned around on her that she's the one held responsible? Or if she wants to get an abortion to protect herself and her current children or her future children from the situation that she's in, to then be punished. In Alabama, even though the Human Life Protection Act exempts women from being prosecuted, it doesn't provide exemption from all criminal laws, like a law called the Chemical Endangerment Law, which is basically a law that was written to punish adults who expose their children to an environment in which controlled substances are produced or sold. So basically not taking your kids to a drug deal or a meth lab or really sketchy situations, which yes, of course that law should exist. That's crazy. But now they are using that language as an opportunity to prosecute women who took abortion medication with chemical endangerment of their fetus, creating an environment where a controlled substance is present, which is really important because abortion medication accounts for 63% of abortions and is the primary way that women in anti-state anti-abortion states can get the care that they need. Those states also like really encourage people to tell on each other, which obviously makes it like even more unsafe for women. In Texas, they passed bounty hunter laws,
Oh my God.
which gives citizens a $10,000 reward for successfully suing anyone who violates abortion bans. And other states like Idaho are following suit.
Of course.
Yeah. And like we don't need to get into it. I feel like it honestly probably would be a good whole separate episode. But related to that, there was a case where a woman had a miscarriage and, you know, had the miscarriage
Yeah.
and flushed it down the toilet because you are just bleeding crazily
Yeah.
from your vagine.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like an abortion, it wasn't anything. And she went to the doctor, and a nurse told on her and said that she disposed of a fetus in an illegal way because she didn't seem properly upset about the fact. Because I think she went in because she was bleeding so much and was like wanting to make sure that she was safe and like didn't need any care.
Wow.
And that nurse and the police officer that the nurse talked to like honestly fabricated quotes by the patient. And now I think the patient is coming back and like suing
Good for her.
the hospital or the nurse or whatever, but like these stories are already popping up, you know?
Wow.
Crazy times.
All right, so that is where we are going to leave it off for today. We want to not overwhelm ourselves with information. We take in what we can, and then we go and protect our peace and spark some frickin' joy, okay? We got a little ahead of ourselves, so we're just going to make it a two-parter. So tune back in next week for part 2 of this reproductive rights rundown. In the meantime, be sure to follow us on social media. All of our platforms are linked in the show notes, and that's where you'll be able to find more real-time updates on reproductive rights news and everything related. Thanks. Love you. Bye.